At the award ceremony for my own brother, I was halted by security. Demonstrate to the lady that you are not included on the list. Logan, my brother, cast a sly smirk in the direction of his wife. My sister is merely a desk-bound worker, lacking any real purpose. She ought to have wed a genuine officer. Little did he know that my mundane desk job was poised to both rescue him and shatter his pride, all in the span of a single day. Greetings, Chin. I am Elena Clark. I have reached the age of 34 years. On this radiant May morning, the air I inhaled seemed to whisper of an impending betrayal, one that felt all too familiar. The salty, sharp wind swept in as I navigated my car over the grand arch of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, the sun's rays dancing on the water, radiating a cheerfulness that seemed almost out of place for the moment. Before me stretched the revered expanse of the United States Naval Academy, Annapolis, where the steadfast red brick walls resonated with echoes of honor, discipline, and a distinctly resolute sense of duty. Once I discovered a parking space, I observed them, the dignified military families, their backs erect, their expressions radiant as they walked across the pristine green lawns. Their sons and daughters, the midshipmen, stood as if carved from stone in their immaculate dress whites, a living testament to a legacy I was born into yet never fully permitted to embrace. A subtle, intricate twist of pride for my younger brother, Logan, constricted within my chest. It was an emotion I had mastered to control over the years, to protect with a familiar veil of acceptance. Today I was acutely aware of my purpose. For 15 years I had inhabited this role, a meticulously crafted portrayal of the supportive older sister, a subtle footnote in the epic narrative of the family hero. I existed as a mere shadow, a name softly murmured in the periphery. Drawing in a deep, calming breath, I braced myself to once more assume the role of the sister tethered to the desk. At the primary security checkpoint, I donned a modest beige trench coat, a deliberate choice to obscure the sharp uniform beneath, effectively masking the rank that adorned my shoulders. A young petty officer Carter, his jaw clenched in the gravity of his duty, took my ID. He exuded professionalism, his demeanor polished and composed, until his gaze fell upon the guest list displayed on his tablet. He gazed at me, a furrow of bewilderment etching itself between his brows. "Ian, ma'am, I apologize," he stated, his tone courteous yet resolute, honed to remain steadfast. "I do not have Elena Clark listed among the guests for Lieutenant Hayes." He angled the tablet screen toward me, a silent testament that the mistake was not his. "The list I possess includes Captain James Clark, Mrs. Catherine Hayes, and Mrs. Rachel Clark, the lieutenant's wife." He then recited each name with unwavering precision. James Clark, Catherine Hayes, Rachel Clark. Each name struck me like a small, sharp hammer blow against my ribs. The absence of my own name resonated louder than any of theirs. This was no mere clerical mistake. It was not a simple oversight. This was a purposeful, calculated act of obliteration. Aeneas, summoned by the thought, arrived in the gleaming, ostentatious black SUV that my family favored, pulling up to the gate with an air of authority. The door swung open and Logan stepped out, embodying the essence of a conquering hero in his impeccably tailored dress whites, the uniform almost glowing against his sun-kissed skin. He caught sight of me standing there, noted the guard's apologetic demeanor, and a slow, knowing smirk, a victory only a lifelong rival could truly relish, spread across his lips. Rather than stepping up to defend his own sister, he inclined toward his wife, Jessica, and remarked, his voice resonating with unmistakable clarity, intended for both the guard and me to catch. "Likely just a paperwork error. She ought to have wed a genuine officer instead of dabbling with spreadsheets," and the cruelty of it stunned me. My mother, Margaret, suddenly found the clasp of her antique pearl brooch to be the most captivating object in the world, her hands fluttering in a dramatic gesture of evasion. My father, David, a retired captain, merely scowled, his face a canvas of profound, impatient irritation, not for the affront, but for the spectacle his daughter was creating in public. They strode forward without a glance back, passing the checkpoint and leaving me in their wake, as if I were merely a forgotten piece of luggage, an unclaimed item lost in the shuffle. A flush of embarrassment surged through me. Logan's words struck like a blow, yet it was the silence of my parents that truly stung. Their inaction was a form of complicity, a subtle yet definitive affirmation of a lifetime spent feeling diminished. In the midst of this agonizing family turmoil, the young petty officer Carter found himself compelled to speak, his tone tinged with a sense of professional unease. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside." I chose not to contest his request. I remained silent, my body tense and unyielding, a chill coursing through my spine as I observed their departure. I witnessed them fade into the sacred space that had cast me aside at their behest. In that instant of deep public forsakenness, the pain did not dissipate. Instead, it solidified. It transformed, cooling and hardening into something altogether different, a resolution forged in my mind as unyielding as steel. Very well. Let them hold on to their beliefs. Ione's perilous tranquility enveloped me, the tempest within me quieted, its tumultuous energy coalescing into a singular, piercing clarity. Today's performance promised to be legendary. He understood that not a single tear would be shed. I refused to grant them that satisfaction. Kin stood there on the pristine grounds of the academy, an outcast at the gate, and in that instant, I felt the present moment fade away. The sharpness of Logan's words served as a key, unearthing a trove of memories I had meticulously kept hidden. The composed, poised woman I had become began to dissolve, giving way to the specter of a teenage girl, eternally positioned on the periphery of a circle of light, gazing inward. The first memory that emerged was steeped in the scent of charcoal and freshly mown grass. It was the day Logan's acceptance letter to the academy had finally arrived. My father, a figure who seldom revealed any sentiment beyond a resolute nod or a serious scowl, had undergone a remarkable change. He hosted an enormous backyard barbecue, extending invitations to what seemed like every retired and active duty officer within a 50-mile radius. There he was by the grill, tongs in one hand and a beer in the other, his voice resonating with a pride he had never directed toward me. He wrapped an arm around Logan's shoulders, repeatedly presenting him as the heir to the Hayes legacy. Later, my mother emerged with a large sheet cake from the local bakery, adorned with excessively sweet frosting and airbrush designs. In bold blue letters it proclaimed, "Congratulations, future Admiral." The entire world appeared to freeze in that singular moment. This was more than a mere celebration. It was a coronation, a public affirmation of the anointed heir. And I, his elder sister, found myself merely a commoner amidst the throng, an observer at a rite taking place in my own domain. I smiled, I clapped, and yet I felt utterly and completely invisible. The universe has a cruel sense of irony. That very same week, I had won a National Science Fair award. My project, a complex cryptographic algorithm, garnered recognition as one of the most promising in the country. I recall the weight of the award in my hands, a heavy gold-plated medal suspended from a thick ribbon. For a fleeting few hours, I permitted myself to embrace a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this, I mused, would suffice. Ine discovered my father by the fireplace that evening, engrossed in the Wall Street Journal. I approached him cautiously, much like a child presenting a drawing, my heart racing with an urgent longing for his approval. "Dad," I had said, my voice barely a whisper. I won. In any case, I held out the medal. He accepted it, his gaze scarcely lifting from the newspaper. A fleeting look fell upon the intricate engraving, yet his expression remained unchanged. "Good job, sweetie," he murmured, the words slipping out effortlessly, lacking any genuine warmth. He returned it to me, then neatly folded his paper. I found myself contemplating how Logan would require a rigorous physical training plan to prepare for plebe summer. And just like that, the moment slipped away. The focus, as ever, had shifted back to Logan. The gold medal I held felt unexpectedly burdensome, not from the pride of accomplishment, but from the quiet weight of disappointment. Its luster appeared to fade beneath the harsh glow of the fluorescent lights in our living room. Later that night, in the solitude of my bedroom, I opened an aged wooden box that held remnants of the past. Inside lay childhood trinkets and old letters, each a whisper of memories long tucked away. I carefully placed the medal within, cradling it between a dried corsage and a silver dollar from my grandfather, before gently closing the lid once more. It transformed into a secret I guarded from the world, a quiet, aching reminder that my triumphs, regardless of their weight in my own realm, remained unseen in theirs. That sensation of being unseen solidified a few years later. On the night I revealed my career decision, I mustered every ounce of courage to declare that I had been accepted into the Naval Intelligence Program. My father silenced the TV, his expression transforming into the familiar visage of disapproval. He fixed his gaze on me from across the coffee table, his quietude more daunting than any outburst. "Isn't it intelligence?" he finally uttered, the word lingering in the air like a veiled accusation. "That position is meant for those who struggle in combat, Sophia. The Hayes family does not belong in a support role." Amen, my mother, always the mediator, interjected with a soothing smile. "Now, David," she said gently, placing a hand on his arm, "perhaps it's safer for her that way." Her words, intended as solace, felt like a sharp blade. Safer for her. The message was unmistakable. I was perceived as weak, delicate, in need of safeguarding, unfit for the true magnificent peril that men like my father and brother were destined to confront. They failed to recognize my decision as a tactical maneuver, a distinct form of battle waged through intellect and scrutiny. Instead, they regarded it merely as a departure from the illustrious journey they envisioned, a subtle disappointment in maintaining the family legacy. Shouldn't that have been the cornerstone of my entire career, built upon their dismissal, which served as my driving force? The smoldering resentment from countless small wounds had shaped a determination within me that they could never grasp. My family envisions me toiling away with spreadsheets, imagining a sterile government office, a beige cubicle, where my greatest daily struggle is a paper jam in the printer. The bitter irony lies in their partial truth regarding the sterile aspect. However, they remain oblivious to the true essence of that sterility. They are unaware of the realm we refer to as the tank, a term that serves as a moniker for a skiff, a sensitive compartmented information facility ensconced deep underground, fortified against any electronic surveillance. The atmosphere is frigid, recycled, and infused with the persistent, low hum of formidable servers. There are no windows. The sole illumination emanates from the vast, curved expanse of screens before me, a vibrant tapestry of luminous maps, drone feeds, and flowing lines of code. This was my office, my arena of conflict. Sis and I recall one specific night, a Tuesday that seamlessly merged into a Wednesday. The atmosphere inside the tank was laden with an almost palpable tension, as we orchestrated a perilous hostage rescue operation in the Red Sea. A civilian oil tanker had fallen prey to pirates, and the fate of a dozen lives teetered on the edge. My team of analysts provided a steady flow of data, their voices a calm murmur in my earpiece, creating a focused and determined cadence. My role demanded a panoramic view of the battlefield, a swift connection of the dots before our adversary could even blink. Shin Viper 1, confirmed target location. "You are 2 mics out," I communicated through my headset, my voice steady, masking the adrenaline surging within me. On the main screen, a satellite thermal image revealed a cluster of heat signatures on the tanker's deck. Eagle Eye, provide thermal resolution on the bridge. I need a personnel count. The image sharpened, displaying 7 hostiles and 12 hostages huddled together. The fate of Viper 1, a SEAL team, hinged on my forthcoming commands, on my capacity to analyze and foresee. This was no mere spreadsheet. It was a high-stakes chess game, where the pawns were human lives, and I was the one maneuvering the most crucial pieces across the board. It was in that moment of intense focus, just as I was poised to give the green light, that my personal cell phone, nestled in my pocket, vibrated. It was an abrupt, unwelcome disruption from an alternate realm. For a fleeting moment, I contemplated dismissing it, yet protocol dictated otherwise. I retrieved my device. It was a message from Logan. On the small screen, a message flickered like a beacon of casual ignorance from a distant world. "Enjoying your weekend in DC? I bet you're hitting the museums? Don't work too hard on those reports, SIS." Annie Nye read the words, and a cold, bitter wave of irony washed over her. Here I found myself, ensnared in a perilous clash with armed traffickers. My thoughts raced to their utmost boundaries. Yet, in his eyes, I was merely the tedious older sister, a mere visitor in my own existence, suffocating beneath a mountain of paperwork. The nickname SS felt like a quiet insult. I inhaled deeply, my fingers momentarily tightening around the phone, before I pressed the power button, casting the screen into shadow. I tucked it back into my pocket, my attention returned to the wall of screens, my voice emerging with a chilling precision. "In standby, Viper 1, I commanded, my gaze drawn to a flicker of movement on a secondary feed. A small, unlit fishing boat was making its way toward the tanker from the stern. It remained absent from all maritime charts. It was a specter, a phantom. It belonged to someone with an eagle's gaze. Concentrate on that trawler. Immediately, the thermal image magnified. The boat exuded a chill, yet the forms within radiated warmth. 6 additional heat signatures, armed and poised, lay in wait. They anticipated the SEAL's arrival on board. Sin Viper 1, abort. Abort. My voice sliced through the stillness of the tank, urgent and commanding. I repeat, abort the breach. A secondary hostile force is closing in from your 6. They're leading you straight into a kill box. A wave of relief, silent and profound, swept through the room as the SEAL team confirmed the new orders. In that fleeting moment, my analysis had just saved their lives. 8 hours later, at 3 a.m., I finally returned to my empty apartment in Washington, D.C. The adrenaline had ebbed, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion. The city lights shimmered beyond my window, a constellation of unknown faces, oblivious to the events that had unfolded in the shadows far away. I made my way to the liquor cabinet, each step weighted with gravity, and filled a sturdy glass with a generous measure of Kentucky bourbon. No ice, just the raw warmth of the spirit. It and I lingered by the window, the amber liquid swirling in my glass, the silence enveloping the room a sharp counterpoint to the orchestrated turmoil of my profession. My mind drifted to the men of Viper 1. Comrades whose faces would remain forever unseen, whose gratitude would echo in silence. I pondered the series of triumphs credited to faceless intelligence sources. Solitude was the cost of this quiet strength. My family believed I merely shuffled documents. They were unaware that those documents contained the destinies of nations, that the ink from my pen had the potential to mobilize armies and alter the equilibrium of power. They perceived a desk job. I envisioned a global chessboard, and I had long since embraced the terms of my service. I welcomed the solitude, the secrecy, the overwhelming burden of it all, for the mission had always held greater significance than a bruised ego. Unhope crept in when I least anticipated it, not with fanfare, but in the subdued atmosphere of a corner office within the Pentagon. The air was thick with the scent of aged leather, dusty tomes, and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Just 2 days following the Red Sea operation, 2 days after Logan's text had cut through the tension of the tank, I found myself summoned by General Aldrich. Annan, my commanding officer, was a 4-star general known for his brilliance as much as his toughness. His office, with a view of the Potomac, was adorned not with medals but with maps and photographs capturing moments with soldiers in the field. He motioned for me to take a seat as he approached the quietly humming coffee machine in the corner. "Sentin, you look exhausted, Sophia," he said, his back still turned to me. The use of my first name felt unusual, a clear indication that this was no ordinary debriefing. He pivoted, extending a heavy ceramic mug brimming with steaming black coffee toward me. It was a modest act, yet within the tapestry of my existence, it resonated with profound significance. He settled into his imposing mahogany desk, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that was both unwavering and free of reproach. It was the sort of gaze that enveloped you in a sense of recognition, a feeling of being acknowledged not merely as an employee or a collection of abilities, but as a human being. "You saved 12 lives the other night," he said, his voice a deep, unwavering rumble. "And the lives of the entire SEAL team. The official report won't bear your name for obvious reasons. But I know, and the President knows." He leaned in just a bit, his gaze locked onto mine. "You ought to take pride in that." I found myself staring at him, the heat from the coffee mug gradually warming my chilled hands. For a fleeting instant, words eluded me. In my reality, commendation felt like an unfamiliar dialect. The notion of being recognized for my accomplishments, rather than my shortcomings, was so foreign that my thoughts grappled to comprehend it. A fissure appeared in the frigid exterior I had meticulously built around my being. I was neither Captain Hayes' daughter nor the overshadowed sister of Logan. In this room with this man I was simply Sophia. And for the first time in what felt like ages, that was more than sufficient. He then allowed the silence to linger for a moment, giving his words the space to settle. He pressed on. "The Joint Chiefs have been deliberating over Operation Blackwater. The time has come. We are convinced that certain elements can now be revealed." Inanna blinked and my thoughts surged. Operation Blackwater was my crowning achievement, a multi-year intelligence campaign that had dismantled a global terror financing network. It was the work I held in the highest regard, Yet it lay concealed beneath layers of the strictest security clearance. "Inanai, the decision has been made," he said, a subtle smile gracing the corners of his mouth. "It is high time we acknowledge those unsung heroes who dwell in the shadows. The Department of the Navy has formally put forth your name for the Distinguished Service Medal." "Inanai," I felt the breath escape my lungs. The Distinguished Service Medal stands as one of the most esteemed non-combat accolades, a tribute reserved for senior officers who have exhibited exceptionally meritorious service while shouldering significant responsibilities. I found myself rendered speechless. He commenced discussing my career, citing particular operations, strategic victories, and analytical innovations. Achievements I had tucked away in confidential files. Achievements that had nearly slipped from my memory in the ceaseless flow of subsequent endeavors. He grasped the complete narrative, the intricate fabric of my professional journey. Not merely the fragmented, insignificant strands my family recognized. An unfamiliar emotion surged within me, tightening around my throat. Compelled by the surprising comfort of this space, I found myself revealing a truth I had long kept hidden. "Sir," I murmured, my voice scarcely above a whisper, "my family believes I have a desk job. They think I merely push paper." Anticipating a nod of sympathy, maybe even a glance of pity, I was taken aback when General Aldridge leaned back in his chair and erupted into a deep, resonant laugh. It was not a laugh born of mockery, it was a laugh that resonated with pure, unfiltered joy. A sound that celebrated the grand cosmic irony of existence. In the confines of his desk job, he erupted, shaking his head in disbelief. Then leaning forward once more, his eyes sparkled with the emergence of a sudden brilliant idea. In that moment, a thrilling notion began to take shape, as if a grand plan was unfolding before him. "Your brother's award ceremony is next month, correct? At Annapolis." I nodded, a sense of bewilderment washing over me. "How poetic it would be," he mused, his smile broadening, "to honor two of Captain Hay's children on the same day for two distinct yet equally essential acts of service to our nation." His words fell into the quiet, desolate expanse of my hope and flourished. A bold, daring thought began to take hold in my mind, the notion that my truth, my authentic narrative, might at last emerge from the shadows. Not through my own frantic justifications, but through the irrefutable, formal acknowledgement of the United States Navy. This idea was both daunting and exhilarating. In the seed of hope that General Aldridge had planted, it felt fragile, a delicate green shoot in the barren soil of my heart. Yet my memory, a far more cynical and seasoned gardener, swiftly summoned the specter of the last 4th of July, a day that stood as a perfect, suffocating reminder of why such hope was a perilous thing to nurture. And the scene replays in my mind, reminiscent of a faded home movie. A tableau of quintessential American perfection unfolds. My parents' expansive backyard in suburban Virginia, thick with the smoky, savory aroma of burgers and hot dogs, sizzling on my father's oversized gas grill. An American flag, Old Glory herself, fluttering with pride from a pole on the porch. A sizable blue Coleman cooler, glistening in the afternoon sun, filled to the brim with cans of Miller Lite and Coca-Cola. It was a scene straight out of a Rockwell painting, embodying the essence of family and patriotism. As ever, I found myself merely a piece of the backdrop, a subtle element contributing to the overall picture. The real center of attention, the sun that drew our entire family constellation into its gravitational pull, was Logan. He commanded the freshly stained deck, a beer in hand, captivating a spellbound audience with a story from his recent deployment in the Persian Gulf. It was an engaging tale, I had to concede, brimming with the thunder of engines, nail-biting confrontations, and choices made in the blink of an eye. Yet, it was also largely a fabrication. I was aware of this due to my perusal of the official after-action report, a document so shrouded in secrecy that even its mere existence was concealed. I understood that in reality he played a supporting role, a capable officer fulfilling his duties. Yet, in this moment, under our father's admiring gaze, he had claimed the spotlight for himself. My dad, his face radiating a pride that bordered on discomfort, would nod in agreement, adding technical insights about the FA-18 specifications or the carrier group's protocols, reinforcing the embellished tale with his own authoritative presence. It was a play, one that had grown weary and predictable over the years, a performance they had been staging for as long as I could remember. I found myself, as ever, an unwilling spectator, bound by the ties of family to offer applause for a charade I recognized as a deception. Later, while my father and Logan engaged in a fervent discussion about military expenditures, my mother seized my arm with a gentle yet resolute touch. "Come help me in the kitchen for a moment, dear," she said, her tone infused with brightness and a hint of secrecy. This was her hallmark maneuver, a soft invitation to an intimate setting for a rather harsh, soul-wrenching evaluation. In the chill of the kitchen, she retrieved a sizable bowl of potato salad from the refrigerator, her back turned to me as she adjusted the plastic wrap. "You see Jessica out there," she started, her tone carefully nonchalant. "She possesses an innate ability to nurture Logan. Her presence transforms his home life into a seamless experience. It's truly a remarkable talent, wouldn't you agree?" She pivoted to meet my gaze, her smile a meticulously crafted facade of maternal worry that failed to illuminate her eyes. "A career is indeed a remarkable achievement, Sophia. We are immensely proud of you, naturally,"